It was going to be a hot day. The park hasn't opened yet, and I can already feel the beads of sweat rolling down the back of my neck. I was among the crowd of guests waiting to enter the park, and the Florida sun was already baking me, but no one seemed to notice, or if they did, care. I could feel myself growing impatient, and even a little nervous as I waited. A month ago I had visited the park. I tried to sneak in and see it, but got caught by security. They were nice to me as they escorted me through the mysterious tunnels under the park that everyone talks about as they took me to the office of Disney security. They took my name and told me that they were letting me go with a warning, and that if they ever caught me anywhere on the Disney World property again, I would be arrested for trespassing. I was being banned for life from Disney. Yet here I am again, 2 days from now that the secret Disney and Hasbro have been doing this to pretend it doesn't exist will be gone. 2 days from now, what I came all the way down here to see will be demolished to make a way for a new ride. From what I heard, it'll be some sort of Snow White roller coaster ride. 2 days from now, the My Little Pony ride will be erased from Earth, never to be seen again. In 2009, Hasbro was in full production in the new cartoon series. It was planned for a reboot and an old 80s series that didn't do so well when it came out, when they were confident that the new one would make up for the failure for the first. After all, name a little girl who doesn't like ponies. Spearheaded by a man named Simon Chowdhury, as well as the industry for creating hit cartoon series. Hasbro was so confident for the series they teamed up with Disney to help create a ride for it. How it came to be, I can't say. The deal was done behind closed doors that even I couldn't get into. But there were a few things that I have learned. The ride was called My Little Pony Adventures Through Equestria. Estimated cost was around $80 million, with each pony company splitting the bill. The ride itself had some sources that it said it was around 5 to 10 to 7 minutes long, with a combustion of animatronics, 2D and 3D animation, in something that would be described as a mild indoor roller coaster. Upon entering the ride, guests were seated into a gold or silver chariot representing the sun and moon that could only hold between 10 to 15 people. The ride itself was a story. Disney does like its stories, as guests were magically transported from Disney World to Equestria by a purple unicorn named Twilight Sparkle. Twilight escorts the guests through Equestria, meeting their friends along the way. However, an evil alicorn named Nightmare Moon tries to stop Twilight and its guests, promising eternal darkness. With the help of the guests, Twilight prepares to stop her along with her friends to help with the blue unicorn and something called a Draconiquest named Discord, an attempt to create chaos and prevent Twilight from stopping Nightmare Moon. However, Twilight Sparkle, with the help of some magic gems called the Elements of Harmony, they are able to send Nightmare Moon back. The ride ends with everyone arriving at Canterlot with Celestia sending the guests back to the Magic Kingdom in Disney World. That is where the ride's supposedly about. From what I've learned, the My Little Pony ride was completed but never opened. It just sits there unused in the Magic Kingdom, hidden by a wooden fence and potted bushes, hiding it so well it's easy to miss if you don't know what you're looking for. Why? What happened? It didn't take me too long as I researched the show to make me realize why Disney would rather take a $40 million loss and pretend it doesn't exist. They're scared of it. Finally, after waiting for what felt like hours, the park opened with flair. I wiped the sweat off my forehead while I navigate through the crowds. I feel a little nervous as I pass by Disney employees welcoming me into the park. I have been careful on my return trip. I have cut my hair short and dyed it red. I am also wearing a sun hat and thick red sunglasses, with thousands of people entering the Magic Kingdom every day. I'm sure I won't be noticed, but this whole ordeal is playing havoc with me. Feeling every time I see an employee, paranoia seems to overtake me. A feeling that they know who I am and they are waiting for me. I pick up the pace as I make my way through Main Street, USA, then cut through Cinderella's castle as I exit out the other side of the entering Fantasyland. The carousel is the first thing that greets me, playing old Disney songs while rows of perfect white horses spin around and around in a circle until the end of time. When I was a little girl, the carousel was my favorite thing in the world. Now I have to admit it kind of scares me. I stared at the horses and I wonder what secrets do they know, what they were not telling us. I looked in the eyes of countless horses as they sped past me, feeling that if they could talk, they would tell me to run. "You're going to die," came the voice of a young girl as she got onto the carousel. I froze at those words, stabbed me through my heart. Turning around and I see a young girl that have to be been around 7 or 8, wearing a yellow ballerina dress that said, "You have friends in Equestria" on it. Attached to it was a pink tutu that matched her long flowing pink hair. Fake plastic yellow wings were attached to the back of it, while her arms wrapped around the purple plush unicorn that stared at me with intense violet eyes. Slowly the carousel began to spin again as the wooden horses went up and down to some Disney song I couldn't remember the name of. "I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said," I said to her. "Can you please repeat that?" "Who is your favorite pony?" the girl asked me, showing off her perfect white teeth as she smiled. "Mine is Twilight Sparkle." "Favorite pony from what?" The girl stared at me for a moment, as if she was listening to someone only she could hear, before she finally spoke again. "They're right. This really is the happiest place on earth." I watched her as she skipped away from me, easily disappearing into the fronds of people moving all around. I tried to catch sight of her, but she was gone, leaving me standing next to the carousel as it played, "When You Wish Upon a Star." I hate to admit it, but the girl that shook me up more than I wanted to admit myself. Picking up the pace, I worked my way to the edge of where Fantasyland bordered with Liberty Square. This is where I located my ride on my last visit. As I said before, the ride had been barricaded by a wooden fence too high to see through, obscured and even further with potted bushes, shrubs, and other plants. I didn't know what kind they were except for doing a good job hiding it. The ride was excellently camouflaged, I have to admit. If you don't know where you're looking for, you would have easily walked right past it. It took me nearly almost the entire day to find it on my last visit, getting caught when I finally found the gate that would lead me in. I picked up the pace and as I got closer. Once you know what you're looking for, it becomes a lot easier to see. As I made a beeline towards it, carefully I worked my way through the plants. It was easy to find the latch as I gripped the handle and started to open the door. "Ma'am, what are you doing?" came a voice directly behind me. "You're not supposed to be in there." I found myself freezing and my mind racing as I heard footsteps of Disney security walk right past behind me. "Ma'am, I'm gonna have to ask you to step out of the bushes," the security guard said to me. I have never claimed to be a fast thinker, but today I have to admit, if they ever hand out an award for being fast on your feet, I would generally qualify for one. As I reached into my purse and pulled out my pack of cigarettes, I jammed one in my mouth, lighting it as I backed out slowly. "I'm sorry," I said, giving him my friendliest smile, and as I blew out the steadily stream from my mouth. As I was just looking for a place to smoke, they told me where, but I couldn't find it. Like a true Disney employee, I saw him relax as he directed me to the nearest area, probably figuring me as some stupid tourist. I pretended to listen to his instructions, then waved as I went off, breathing a sigh of relief as I turned the corner and out of his vision. Stupid girl, Melaine. I should have been paying better attention. Don't want to get caught again. I let some time pass wandering in the park until I decided to head back to the spot. Damn it, as I got closer, I see him hovering around the area. He seems bored standing there, but he is alert as I watch him paying attention to the passerby. Quickly before he can spot me, I ducked into one of the many shops in the Magic Kingdom. I walk to the back and surround myself with Mickey and Minnie Mouse dolls, where I keep an eye on him. Sooner or later, he will move away, and when he does, I will find out what is behind that fence. Damn it. I thought if I waited long enough, he would move to another spot. 3 hours have passed and still security guarding the area. It's different guard than earlier, but still I don't want to be seen hanging around, or he might get suspicious. I buy an overpriced Donald Duck keychain as I walked around the shops, keeping an eye out for any opening I can exploit. My patience is starting to wear thin when I finally see a way to get in. Probably the one I will never get. They do try and tell people about the Florida heat, but every day, at least one guest decides to ignore the warnings and not drink enough fluids. It was an elder man this time. I saw him collapse on the ground nearby as the rest of his family just stood over him in shock, too dumbfounded to do anything but stand there like trees. I guess they never believed that anything like this could happen at Disney. I must admit to being impressed by the man as I watched as he quickly comes over and starts to assist the family, calling for help when rendering aid. Better for me as I take a deep breath and walk past the group, who is too busy dealing with the emergency, working my way around them. I quickly snuck by and buried myself into the bushes as I made my way through the fence. It doesn't take me long to find the gate again. I grab the handle and finding it openly easy, and I quietly snuck in. The door swung open with no sound or resistance as I entered and closed it behind me with a loud snick, taking me a moment to realize how quiet it was. Behind me, I could still hear music, the chaos of thousands of people going from ride to ride, but it all sounded so far away, as if the Magic Kingdom had suddenly been moved a few miles. The continuous scraping of my shoes against the concrete as I walked onward was the only sound I made. I have to admit the My Little Pony ride looked impressive, as I could feel the little girl inside me giggle at it in awe. The outside was made to look like a giant tree, with an opening base for guests to enter. From its many branches I could see colorful figures of ponies watching, now slightly faded from the years of neglect, staring at me through the leaves or playing around the trunk near the tree of the opening. I have to admit I felt a little creeped out, their stares too intense, their smiles too wide. I worked my way through some old rusted barriers that formed lines for the guests who will never see it to enter. In the silence, I could hear the hum of engines running in the distance. Was the ride left on? Flickering lights made me to look like candles illuminated the inside as I approached it. Closing my eyes, I could hear the whispering of many voices waiting eagerly in line for their chance to ride. The laughter of children seemed to drift from every dark corner was beyond my vision. Taking deep breaths as I find myself growing more and more anxious as I got closer. The little girl from earlier, her smile stuck in my head, made me more afraid than I wanted to admit as I stepped in. The room was circular, made out of plastic, constructed to look like wood, as if I was inside a giant tree. Rows upon rows of dusty books were glued onto old shelves, rotting away and covered in cobwebs. In the center was a large puddle of green water, probably algae. Rainwater must have leaked from a hole in the roof, from the puddle in the middle of the room, seeming to have a smell of forgotten basement. I must say it reminded me of that Haunted Mansion ride, then a cheerful cartoon singing ponies. On one side of the screen was built onto the wall, warped around with a thin film of grime from the look of it. What was going to play, I couldn't tell you, as the thing looked pretty damaged, and I still could hear the voices of thousands of people patiently waiting in line along with their children, seemingly to follow me as I made my way through the room and to the other side, which led me down the corridor made of the same plastic wood, illuminated by those some plastic lights masquerading as candles. Occasionally I would pass by as empty monitors attached to the ceiling. A couple had fallen from their posts and shattered on the ground, but most were still secured to the ceiling. I passed another room, easily stepping around the tarnished and stained brass rails, separating the lines of people that would never use it. Its stillness sensation being surrounded seemed to follow me as I walked into the third and final room. The room was bigger than the other two. It had divided people into yet more lines. Beyond it was a murl of forest overlooking clear blue sky with the silhouette of a castle in the background. In the center was a black track, painted black and gold chariot sitting there hummingly quietly from unseen motors running below the rails, patiently waiting for me to get on. Each seat had a harness that rose above it, a symbol that the sun was painted on the front of the chariot. On the left side were the numbers 101010. For 2 years it sat there neglected, yet the chariot seemed brand new, the seat comfortable. I didn't want to get on it, but there was no going back. I knew I had to see its ends. I continued to feel unseen eyes watching me, knowing I was going to do it regardless as I stepped downward towards the chariot and made my way towards in the middle. Once I made myself comfortable, the harness came down over me, securing me with a loud click as the ride began to move and a hidden door in front of me opened. Here in Equestria, our magic can be unpredictable to creatures such as you, said the voice I overheard as the chariot rolled onward. So keep your hands, feet, and head inside the chariot at all times. And please no flash photography during your trip. It can scare all those cute cuddly animals of the forest, and we wouldn't want that now, don't we? Another voice said, before the chariot began to accelerate. I was surprised by the condition of the ride. Despite having a couple years of neglect, it still ran pretty smooth. Some of the animatronics didn't work properly and had a few screens were damaged. One was completely shattered with shards of glass lying all around the ground. A few of the props had fallen over and everything was caked in a layer of dirt and filth. But the ride ran pretty smooth as the chariot zipped along the rails, following the purple unicorn named Twilight Sparkle, who continued to take me over Equestria, showing me off her friends that live in Ponyville. It was about the middle of the ride, I guess, when Twilight and her friends, that everything took a very dark turn. Clouds began to fill the screen above me as it got noticeably darker. Lightning began to flash around me as an obnoxious laughter was heard growing louder and louder. "Oh no!" yelled Twilight Sparkle. "Nightmare Moon is back!" A silhouette of something dark drifted behind the cartoon clouds, something that I was sure didn't belong on the ride, something that was very much aware of me. My nervousness began to creep back into me as the feeling that something was wrong. My hand gripped the harness as I pulled it to see if I could lift it up, but it was locked into place. Panic began to overtake me as I began to fight with it, as terrible knowing how that bad things were beginning to happen. Another flash of lightning ripped through the darkness apart, and black ooze began to pour out of the animatronics. The blackness dripped outwards onto the ground, tearing up the ponies and exposing their metallic insides, as the more continued to come out of the 6 ponies as the chariot continued onwards. "You wanted to know, Melanie," said the remains of Twilight as her face sunk into her head, twisting into a terrible grin before dropping off to the ground. "You wanted to see. You wanted to understand what we are. I hope you enjoy the ride." The chariot rocketed forward, going faster and faster, turning sharply downwards. I felt myself being pressed onto the seat from the accelerations as the ride plunged into a tunnel. Downwards I shot. Everything became a blur of motion. It was dark, but enough light was present, somehow for me to barely see. "He is at the center," said the voice in the darkness, sounding like Twilight. "He is the everything. He is the end, the eater, the chaos. He is everything, and he is hungry. Always hungry. And we eating? Always eating," said another voice. "Behold the chaos. Hail the eater." A reddish light ripped through the darkness apart, and I saw. I didn't want to see, but I couldn't stop. A thing beyond the imagination of any sane or rational mind lay there unmoving, even though I was still away from it, and the size of that thing was incomprehensible, seeming to stretch both height and width as I saw the thing that lay below our planet. "As big as the world, maybe even bigger," whispered the voice in my ear, as I sat there unable to move, my terror paralyzing me. Its worm-like body, black without eyes, ears, or nose, only mouth open to expose rows upon rows of mountain-sized teeth. On this inside, I noticed some deformed wings and misshapen limbs too small for a huge creature to be. I didn't want to see, I didn't want to stop, but as I looked out onward, it knew its name. From the deepest corners of my soul, I knew it. Discord! Certain that's what it's called itself, as I was certain that the sky was blue. It was immense, it was terrifying, and it was dead. I gagged as I caught the overpowering stench of rotten decay. The creature was decomposing as I stared at things, resembling deformed ticks at the size of houses, crawled over the corpse of the millions, their abdomens swollen to the point of bursting as they consumed the dead monster worm, as I knew that the sun would burn out before those things would make a dent in the body. As I stared at one of the carrion eaters lost its footing onto the carcass, tumbling downwards. It hit the floor and burst, spilling black goo to fill a few pools, and still my terror grew and I saw them. There must have been 10 out of them, crawling around in the mess on the ground, crying in pain as they started to evaporate, their bodies twisting and turning from the exposure to the elements. And all I could think of was, oh my god, they look like ponies. And then the true horror hit me, the truth of it all, knowing that the truth, Discord wasn't dead. Ding, 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 give the lady a prize, laughed a voice behind me. He was, but he wasn't dead. Discord was in the between of both places, living in the dead but still clinging to life. It was growing and it was coming back, and then it knew I was there. The chariot blanked sharply, spreading down onwards towards it, faster and faster as I went, as I saw its mouth grow bigger, and I lost all my sanity from that point. I knew that I had to get away from it. My panic took over as I blindly fought against the restraints while approaching the mouth of the incredible speeds. As horrible as the thought of me dying right now, I knew it would be nothing as to what was inside that thing waiting for me, and still the chariot continued on. You wanted to know. You wanted to see. Just you will always have friends to be with you forever now, said the voice mocking my fear. Isn't it magical? Its teeth hung overhead as I shot into its mouth, into the darkness. Then everything snapped inside me, and I did the only thing I could do. I screamed. I screamed and screamed. My existence was nothing but a scream, and still I kept on screaming as the darkness engulfed me. Wow, thanks to our new friends, we were able to defeat Nightmare Moon and restore Equestria, said the white alicorn as the chariot passed by her. Unfortunately, we have to send you back to the Magic Kingdom, but feel free to visit whenever you want. There's always time for friends. I sat there stunned in silence, unable to comprehend anything that just happened, dumbfounded as I blankly watched rows of dancing ponies celebrating the defeat of Nightmare Moon. Farewell, new friends. I hope to see you again real soon, screamed a pink pony, standing on the ledge of the exit doors as she brought out a cannon that showered me with degraded confetti. I felt the ride roll to a complete stop, back where I had gotten on. My body started to shake and convulse as everything ripped through me. For the first time in my life, I believed in true evil. For the first time in my life, I believed in the devil. I felt bile rising up inside me, and the harness mercifully unhooked me, giving me the freedom to finally get out. I vomited, I cried, I vomited some more. I had to get out. I had to get away from everything and collect myself. How I got away, I couldn't tell you, as everything was a blur. I don't know how I got out from the Magic Kingdom and made it to my car, but once I got there was the first time I felt safe, and I started to let it all out. It took me a while to get myself under control before I turned the key to the ignition and let the AC cool me off. As I started to put my car into drive, I noticed something sticking out on the side of the passenger seat. As I laid it on my lap, I felt tears starting to return as the realization of what I was going to die hit me. It was a laminated folder covered in Disney characters with the words "Memories" printed on it in bright gold letters with the red border. Opening it up was a photograph of myself in the My Little Pony ride. I had thought I rode alone, but there was someone sitting behind me, a girl wearing a yellow dress with pink hair and her eyes blacked out, smiling and waving at the camera. At the bottom and scribbled on the picture was the phrase, "Abandoned by God."
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.